Hey, welcome back. Today's vlog, I'm talking about basketball, 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 and more basketball. So if basketball's not your cup of tea, I'd suggest probably not watch. But if it is, then listen up. So this is definitely the best time of the year for basketball in general, but especially for college basketball. I mean, this week alone is called Championship Week, and it's something I look forward to every single year. But my question is, what really happened to Rivalry Week and Judgment Week? Both those weeks usually are in the college basketball season referred to by ESPN and their broadcast schedule. But I suppose with the COVID this year, they decided that it didn't make a whole lot of sense to really ramp up and talk a lot about it, I guess. I don't know. But usually Rivalry Week runs from end of January to early February, and Judgment Week is from early February to early March. And then, of course, Championship Week follows after that. But those 3 weeks of college basketball, or let's just say it's about a month and a half, it's about 6 weeks really probably, is probably my favorite time of the year for sure. And then, of course, Selection Day is coming up this Sunday on my birthday, 3/14, so that's pretty awesome. Usually my birthday will run the first games of the tournament, so this year it's running a little bit later than normal. Only just due to the way the dates fall, I think. I don't think it has anything to do with COVID, really. But so I'm looking forward to that. We'll see how things play out here at the end with all the conference championship games and conference championships coming up. With that being said, my Badgers, they lost to Iowa on Saturday. Or no, it was Sunday morning, actually. It was yesterday morning. Lost by 4. They were actually in it. They shot a lot better. I believe they would have really won had it not been for some official bailouts at the end. I mean, with 34 seconds to go or so, they were tied at 71. And Demetric Trice had gotten that BS call on Bohannon when Bohannon basically felt his forearm on his side and took that ridiculously wild three-pointer, and the official blew the whistle and called it a foul, so that he went to the line, shot those 3 free throws, and then Trice fouled out. And then on the other end, right after that, we come down, and Aleem Ford makes a pass to Brad Davidson underneath as he's cutting to the basket, and the kid from Iowa, Keegan, basically reaches in and fouls him. And then after they think about it, they decide to go to the review, and they look, and they call it a hook and hold, flagrant foul, which, come on, really? I mean, it could have been that if it wouldn't have been for the fact that Brad was actually going away from the defender and trying to attempt to get to the basketball versus actually trying to battle with the guy to box him out or something along those lines, where a hook and hold usually occurs. So anyway, that was screwy because that ended up giving us the flagrant foul, which means we shot our 2 free throws for or the 1-and-1 for the foul against Iowa, but then Iowa went down and shot 2 free throws and got the ball. So instead of us being down 1 with us fouling to put them on the line to potentially go for them to go up by 3, they were already up 3 with us having to foul them. And so, of course, when we fouled them, they went up. I think they made both, and they got up by 4 or 5. If they made 1 or 2, I can't remember exactly. But I do remember that I think it was down 3 only at that point, or we had scored or something else happened in between. But then there was a situation where they inbound the ball to Bohannon, and then we tied him up, and then Anderson was behind him, and when he was struggling with the tie-up, he actually threw an elbow and hit Anderson in the face. But, of course, the officials decided not to review that play, even though that was unnecessary contact that probably would have warranted a flagrant one, which is what they usually will call in that situation. So that was rough. It was a really rough game. I'm sure we wouldn't have lost anyway with Demetric Trice fouling out, but had they not made that bailout call for Bohannon, probably wouldn't have even gotten he wouldn't have fouled out, probably would have hit a shot or 2 down the stretch, which might have ended up winning that game for us. Either way, we're the 6th seed, win or loss. We were the 6th seed heading into the Big Ten tournament coming up on the 10th. But ironically enough, if we win our game, we'll end up facing Iowa again in like the semis, I think it is. So it'll be, that'll be a judgment game. Then I was watching yesterday, the MVC tournament championship game between Loyola Chicago and Drake. Loyola Chicago is my Cinderella team from 2018 that made the Final Four. You know, they've got Sister Jean still kicking it. She's 101 now. And they were joking around that she's better with Zoom and stuff like this, like I'm doing right now, then the broadcasters were, they were obviously just joking. But she's still quite getting around quite well as far as they were concerned or were talking about it. And they were also mentioning, because Lyle ended up winning that game against Drake. It was a close, semi-close game. Drake's a pretty good team. I think Drake will get in that large bid, anyway. But of course, if Drake would have beat Loyola Chicago in the MVC championship, more likely than not, Drake would have got the automatic, and then Loyola Chicago would have got the at-large. So it would have been probably better for the MVC if Drake would have won, because who knows, maybe Drake won't get in. But they have him the first 4 in, so we'll see. Also, they say that maybe that team right now, the Loyola Chicago team that for 2021 is actually better than the 2018 team. And if that's the case and that's the truth, you guys might want to fill out your bracket and put Loyola Chicago get into that Final Four, calling it now. And then, of course, Cameron Krutwig, which is their big man inside, he basically was there in 2018 as a freshman, right? And that's why they were pretty darn good as well, because he was a good interior guy for them and they had good shooting. And anyway, he just surpassed the 1,500 point mark, the 800 rebound mark, and the 300 assist club in the MVC. And the only other 3 guys to do that in the MVC conference now, of course, this is a smaller conference, but there's been some good names that have gone through that conference: Oscar Robertson, Larry Bird, and Hersey Hawkins. So, if he's only the 4th guy with those 3 guys ahead of him, who 2 out of 3 are legends, Hersey's no joke either, really. And maybe Cameron will be something. Who knows? We'll see. I'm excited for that. I'm excited to watch them. I hope they get back there. I've got my Loyola Chicago Final Four shirt from 2018, so I'll be sporting that in probably one of the vlogs coming up. Also, it was nice to see. I watched the Duke UNC game. Of course, every time, no matter how good or bad Duke and UNC is, it's usually a good match. But it looked like, from what I saw, and I didn't watch a whole lot of it, but it looked like Duke got spanked pretty bad by UNC this time around at North Carolina. And they're actually the number 10 seed, and they got to do a play-in game for, I don't know, probably the first time in forever, that in the ACC tournament. And I can't remember who they're going to face. I think it's a 15, but I'm not sure who that 15 is. It could be Boston College, or it might be Wake Forest. I don't know. I can't remember. I have to look it up. But anyway, what's ironic, too, is if they win the second round, they'll be facing UNC. So that'll be really interesting. And it's been a long time since Duke has been this bad, and probably before Coach K, or maybe one of the first seasons that Coach K was at Duke. So I predict if Duke doesn't return to form next season, I think Coach K will step down and retire. And I think he's getting there in age anyway, and I think he probably, I don't know. I really don't know for sure, but that's just my hunch. So we'll go with it. NBA All-Star Sunday night was last night. Watch that. What'd you think about that? Anybody out there watching? The skills competition was kind of interesting. I like watching it. Kind of sad that it seems like a guard will never win it again. It seems like only bigs will win when it comes to this thing, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if the guards just take it too much for granted, or what the deal is. There's 2 keys to that competition. One is you got to make that pass into that circle, into the tire, or whatever the heck it is, the first time. If you don't do it, you're pretty much screwed. The second thing you got to do is you almost got to hit that first 3-point attempt you take on the last shot of the whole entire challenge. Otherwise, you also probably aren't going to win. And the guy who won this year was Domantas Sabonis from Indiana Pacers. And, he's like their stretch 5, or I don't know, maybe he's considered a 5. He's not that big, but he's tall enough. And in the first 2 rounds, he beat both opponents by hitting that 3-pointer the first time and making the pass inside the target on the first attempt each time. So he ended up, and then on top of that, I saw that the structure was with 2 buys, which was really odd. And the 2 of the buys was Doncic and Chris Paul and Luka Doncic. And I was thinking to myself, couldn't they have gotten just at least 2 more guys to partake and participate in this thing? Would that have been so much to ask for, so we didn't have to have a bye? It's kind of awkward and weird, right? And why did they get the bye? Because they're guards? Or did they draw straws or pick a number? I mean, what did they do? I don't know. It was weird. 3-point shootout. That was pretty decent. A couple of guys looked weak early, ended up finishing with decent amount of points, not terrible. I mean, 17 was the low number, I think, and that wasn't too great. Of course, Curry looked amazing in his first round, and of course in the final he was clutch and hitting the last few buckets he had to hit in order to win. Conley looked pretty good, and of course if he would have beat Curry, even though I'm a big Curry fan, I would have felt pretty good for him too, since it's his first All-Star appearance, and he's a lefty like me, so who can doubt that? I mean, it'd been awesome to see a lefty win. But yeah, the shooting overall was decent. I like the addition of the new, I don't know what they call it, but it's like 29 feet 9 inches. It's two shots, and there were 3 points each from that distance. And then the final round, Curry made both of them, and he was 3 for 4 overall from that spot. So that was cool. And then dunk contest at the half, they only had 3 dunkers, which I thought was kind of a joke. Of course, you never know who they are nowadays. They're just amateur, basically not amateurs, because of course they're professionals, but they're not usually any big names that we recognize. And it was Cassius Stanley, Anthony Simone, and of course Obi Toppin. And Obi Toppin was a high draft pick this year, and he's playing for New York, and he had the most dunks in the NCAA last year before the COVID hit. And he's quite the athlete and quite the dunker, but of course he's taller. He's like 6'8". And the other 2 guys are much shorter, like 6'3" or something each. And it's hard to get really excited about the dunk contest anymore, because we've been exposed to so many great dunkers on social media. I mean, there's a lot of amateur dunkers out there that are way better, doing way crazier dunks. That's what they do. That's all they do. They might not be able to play a lick of basketball, but they can jump out of the building, right? And so they can make some amazing dunks. And of course, they might try these dunks for months before they land one, but they record every single time. So of course, when they get it, it's there. They got it. And then they post it to YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or wherever it might be. And if you just Google and look for some of those guys and some of those dunks, you'd be blown away if you hadn't seen them. They're just truly amazing. And so, yeah, it's hard to get super excited about the NBA dunk contest anymore, especially when the names aren't there. Back in the 80s, it was, Dominique Wilkins, it was Michael Jordan, and big names and big contests, and it meant something, and all this sort of thing. And even in the early 2000s, when Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady and some guys got involved, and you saw some unique dunks for the times, and there wasn't so much going on. Of course, there was no social back then, so you couldn't see these kids and amateurs dunkers like we can nowadays. So it is different. And then my only other consensus on the whole thing was Cassius Stanley, after he kind of got robbed on his first dunk. I think he got a pretty low score. Ultimately, he had a second dunk, and it was the top 2 dunkers out of 3 that moved on. And so knowing that he had the lowest score, knowing that he basically needed a 50, and he was trying to do a dunk where he threw an alley-oop to himself, and then he was going to try to wrap it around underneath his backside off one leg and then flush it with his left hand. And he attempted it twice, and he couldn't get the grip off the bounce behind the back or underneath his butt to get it up. He gave up, and he tried another dunk, and he missed it. And he still had 2 more attempts, because that was his first technical missed dunk, was the one where he actually got the ball to the rim. So what he should have done is he should have continued to work on the dunk that he was trying to pull off, because if he would have pulled it off, he might have gotten a 49 or 50. And then that might have gave him a real shot to get into the second round and have a chance. Instead, he settled with some kind of dunk that, heck, I could do when I was dunking in my early 20s, late 20s, before I stopped being able to dunk, of course. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't get as high as he got, of course. But, the bottom line was it wasn't anything spectacular or special. If you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, the dunk contest was, The dunk at the end wasn't, I don't know. I just, it was like kiss the rim. It was like the true kiss the rim. And if he really would have stuck his lips onto the rim before he slammed it, it would have been probably maybe the greatest all-star dunk contest dunk ever. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. It's up for opinion, but he didn't. He was afraid probably to bop himself in the face, hit his nose, hit his chin, hit his forehead, something like that. So he kind of backed away at the last second, but I think he could have done it. As for the game, LeBron's team was just super stacked. I mean, Durant's team had just no chance from the jump. And, it was, you knew that there was no way that Durant's team was going to compete with how loaded LeBron's team was, with all the shooters and Giannis and whatever. And then I was shocked to see that LeBron only played like 13 minutes in this game. And I'm wondering if he sat out because he didn't believe he should have been in there in the first place, because he was one of the guys that kind of protested the idea of doing the All-Star weekend and All-Star game. And so maybe he, played it what he was required, let's say, so to speak. I don't know if there's a requirement for amount of minutes or time, but it really was odd because I've never ever seen him not play more than he did in that 13 minutes in an All-Star game, especially when he usually likes to compete for the MVP. Maybe it's because his team was loaded. I don't know, but I think it had something to do with the fact he was trying to protest the fact that they shouldn't have been doing the game in the first place. And then, of course, Giannis was amazing with his 16 for 16 shooting, which was primarily all dunks, of course, except for 4 shots total, 3 of 3 from the 3-point line. And of course, 2 of those threes he banked in, which was crazy. And it was funny because when he was 15 for 15, he took that last 3. And I think Reggie Miller and whoever else was calling the game with him was like, no. And he made it and he banked it in there like, yes. It was funny. If you hadn't seen that clip, you should watch it. It's pretty cool. It was hilarious. And then, Giannis just, I mean, you can't even call his 16 for 16 amazing when all he does is drive the lane, dunk it every time or whatever it was. I mean, outside these 3 threes, of course, and the 2 banks that he made, luckily. Otherwise, if he would have missed either one of those, of course, it wouldn't have been perfect. But it was the first time ever for someone going perfect at that many attempts and that many makes, I think. And then, of course, they did the awesome Elam ending, which I'm a huge fan of. If you haven't heard about that yet, it's something they do in what they call the basketball league in the summers, which is a pro-am tournament for like $2 million, and they run it over the summer. And that's where it started. And there was this mathematician guy named, I don't know, his last name is Elam or something like that. And he devised that the end of basketball games, he theorized, and I think he did some mathematical analysis that said basically, with all the fouling that happens at the end of games, extending the length of games, trying to come back and having a chance to win, rarely statistically does a team ever really come back and win by doing such. And it just prolongs the game at the end. And usually it just means people are, people are watching, don't want to watch everyone foul and just go to the line, shoot free throws, and the team come down, score, and then foul or miss, and then foul, yada, yada, yada. So he was like, usually he came up with a mathematical, like I said, equation, decided that there was like 7 points. 7 points was like the magic number that all games come down to in the final, like 2 or 3 minutes of the game or something, or 4 minutes of the game. And so the original Elam ending is that when whatever the score is at the 4-minute mark of the second half, the last 4 minutes of the second half, you stop the clock, and whatever the score is, so let's say one team has got 60 and the other team's got 70, the target number is the leading team's points plus the 7. So if the leading team's got 70, the target number is 77, which means the team that's behind that has 60 has to score 17 points, and the team that's winning only has to score 7 points. And then there's no clock, and it's basically every game with the Elam ending has to end on a game-winning shot, which is the coolest part of the whole thing. And there's some little things they could tweak here and there regarding fouls and shooting free throws, in my opinion, and how that works out. But overall, it's pretty cool. Well, with the NBA All-Star game last year, they dedicated, of course, everything to Kobe, and they decided to make the Elam ending 24 points. And this year, they did the same. They did the 24 points. But, of course, since LeBron's team was so far ahead, I think they were ahead by, I think it was 26 maybe or something like that. I can't remember. With the 24 added to it, I think it was 146 to 120 or something like that. And with the 26 added to it, the target number was 170. Well, there was just no way, of course, without tremendous amount of misses and mistakes by LeBron's team in order to lose to Durant's team. So it never got closer than I think it was maybe 11 or 12 points difference. And anyway, Dillard, I'm drawing a blank now. Anyway, Damian Lillard hit 2 threes in a row near the end. And on the third trip down the court, Curry could have hit him on the left wing wide open, hit the deep 3 to win the game. And Curry decided to be the hero and try to take that game winner from about 35 feet, and he bricked it. And then the next possession, Lillard got the ball down in the same left wing by the hash probably. No, actually, no, it was one step. He stepped one step inside the half-court line and pulled up and drilled it and hit his third consecutive three-pointer. And he scored the last 9 points for LeBron's team to win 170 to whatever the heck Durant's team ended up with. And then Giannis won the MVP, and both Curry and Lillard both ended up with 8 threes each, and they both shot pretty much those half-court type threes and made a bunch of them. So that was entertaining, but the rest of the game was pretty sloppy. Some of the alley-oops and dunks, like early on, especially the first half, were really bad. And LeBron missing like a reverse layup dunk, and he missed something else like that. And Zion mishandled a couple alley-oops and missed a couple alley-oop dunks. And I think he was just nervous, of course, because it's his first All-Star game and first time getting out there. But, at the end of the day, it was still, something to watch, but I could have taken it or left it, I should say, not leaving it, left it. And, it was one of those games where it just wasn't very competitive from the get-go. So therefore you knew that even with the Elam ending, it probably wasn't going to be very competitive, and it wasn't. Not nearly as good as it was the year before, which was actually freaking amazing. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch the All-Star game from 2020. It was awesome. And then, that's pretty much it, I think, for basketball. I'm going to go now and watch some more of Championship Week on ESPN, and I'll be watching it the rest of the week, and I'll be back again tomorrow, and maybe I'll have something else fun to talk about. But if you enjoyed this, let me know. I'd love for you to leave me a comment somewhere and let me know if you enjoyed my thoughts and opinions about college basketball and NBA basketball. And if you'd like to hear more about it, I'd be sure to be more than happy to share more of my insights and my ideas about things. But with that being said, I'm going to sign off and go watch some hoops, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.